Scoundrels web series and podcast is filmed and recorded in their ship, the Centurion Vulture, and may contain language not suitable for all. Viewer discretion is advised.
Get back at it. Woo! Welcome to Scoundrels, y'all. We are broadcasting from the Centurion Vulture. I am CG.
I'm Paul Bannister.
Curtis Wayne Millard standing by.
Nice. We are still four? No,
Four.
We're three. I can count.
Who's pregnant?
3 grown-ass men.
Yep.
Here to talk once more about Star Wars. And today, as expected, we will discuss Andor. The new series, which I am very excited about.
I love it. I mean, I think I've actually watched these episodes so many times, and it's like because I really and like I know we've slightly talked about it, but you say it's adult. It does feel adult, and I'm noticing things about it. Like I don't know if you guys noticed, the music is very similar to James Bond.
Oh,
because I was really listening last night. It was quick because I have 2 kids. It gets kind of loud. Sometimes I'll watch things when they're around and. Last night it was quiet. They were asleep, and I was like, "There's a lot of and it's kind of sprinkled throughout the whole series where it's like it's kind of." And then I was like, "Yeah, it is kind of like a James, but he is kind of like a James Bond feeling. He's not like the Force and feel it, but it's kind of a cool angle in the Star Wars world."
I haven't noticed what the music is like as far as like because I'm not a musician, but I have noticed they haven't been trying to like pull from. Like John, they haven't tried to be John Williams-esque.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it if it's a dude named, these little side. Yeah. This isn't necessarily a side story because it is the rebellion, but it is kind of.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like if they're not going to go full in and use all of the themes, I'd almost rather them do. I mean, again, we keep pointing to Mandalorian because I think it's.
I love the Mando music.
Yeah, it's hard to know. We're 4 episodes in, but so far this feels so good that for me, I'm already slotting it in to my brain in the Mandalorian department of like, okay, this is going to be a good series with smart choices. It feels, I hate to say this, but just more professional. It feels like every department of the filmmaking operation for this series so far feels better than Obi-Wan.
Oh, so absolutely. Good.
Casting, music, just the general look of the show.
The CG is on the not UCG.
Yeah.
But the computer generated graphics.
Yeah.
Me on the show.
Even on the ships are fucking great.
It looks better.
yeah. No, the ships look good.
Yeah, everything feels tactile, which in Obi-Wan that didn't play for me.
They missed the mark on Obi-Wan.
And for the record, everything does for the most part on Mando too.
Yeah.
There's a few CG creatures in the Mando that you kind of can tell is digital, but it's still it's so good. I don't care.
Yeah. I never had a moment watching Mando where I was like, man, that looks low budge. And I hate to say it, I did that. I mean, there's episodes that document are complaining.
Yeah.
But in Obi-Wan, that happened like once per episode.
It just
probably.
Didn't look like Star Wars. Like there was full Obi-Wan episodes where it was just like on that sand planet, where it's like nothing on this planet is reminiscent of anything in this world.
Yeah.
And every episode of Andor,
like y'all just went to Joshua Tree.
Yeah. And it's like it looks like you're seeing things in Andor in every episode that puts you in that world and in that time period, which is personally my favorite. That right in that original trilogy time period, we're 5 years before A New Hope, and it's like. I don't know. Everything's tactile. It looks like that the technology is there, and like they nailed it. They nailed it with this.
They really are crushing it. It also
it's gorgeous.
I think we had talked about this briefly, but it bears repeating. It confirms what we've suspected in previous series, which is that it's a choose your own adventure now in the Star Wars world. As a fan, they're going to serve up different flavors of Star Wars, and instead of. Which helps for someone like me who hates the prequels, has some gripes about Obi-Wan. Because now it's like, well, look, you guys can shit the bed with Obi-Wan, and I don't know what is or isn't going to happen with Ahsoka. I feel I'd be lying if I said I'm less optimistic having seen Obi-Wan. My point is, it's not as much of the end of the world if those things aren't great, as long as I've got Mandalorian and Andor to be my prequel story. Like
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
tell already, assuming Andor stays this good, that this is where I will start my Star Wars experience. I will watch the Andor story leading into Rogue One, and Rogue One is the perfect handoff to A New Hope.
It's a
and then
great
I'm off to the
fucking.
races.
It's a literal handoff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then Mando is this other awesome thing that gets to live in parallel,
Yeah.
side by side, which is kind of fun also because it doesn't have the burden of being forced to fit it into the same timeline from a storytelling standpoint. Because yes, it overlaps with the timeline, but the storytelling is self-contained
Yeah.
in Mandalorian.
Well,
So you
yeah.
get to like have this other experience and still be in the world, but it's not tied to the high stakes saving the galaxy narrative. Whereas
The Skywalker shit.
yeah, well, and even Andor's what I think is fun about it that I'm enjoying so far is it's clearly got high stakes,
Oh yeah.
but it's the first high stakes story that doesn't have to do with the Jedi. Really,
They
it's
did
like
a great job of the actors do seem fearful of
Yeah.
the Empire.
right. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Well, it's like I think that it's.
Mon Mothma's scared, man.
Oh yeah, but it's like this. I think it's almost like we're seeing, like you say, it's like a prequel where we're seeing where the Empire has pushed too far.
Yeah.
Where it's like we're starting to see like, okay, they're really kind of infiltrating and like seeing like the blue suit. They call them the blue suits, which is like seeing like these kind of self-governed.
Yep.
Like you've got the British Empire. You're Australia. You can have your own police, but you are allegiance to us. It's like the Empire. But if you guys are messing up, then we're gonna come in, and you can just see
Yeah.
how they're just reaching in and just kind of taking over everything, and like it's the camel's back's gonna break here,
It's
and
just
the
really
rebellion
smart
is
You're gonna get a
storytelling.
little pushback,
and
dude.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
getting characters that we don't know. Like we know Andor, but it's funny to get these new characters, but they seem so established already. Even though we know her.
No, you're
but,
right.
Like was it Handel? I think his name is, or what's his name?
Is that Gerald Lambeau from Good Will
yeah.
Hunting?
Oh yeah,
And he's also in Chernobyl, right?
yeah.
Yes, correct.
That motherfucker can act.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a
well, he
badass.
was playing like the different characters where he kind of slipped into like this like historic
Oh, dude,
like
that was,
artifact
like-
salesman and
Yeah.
like
How
it's
many
just-
opportunities in Star Wars has someone like been able to like be an actor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like an actual
Totally.
like very powerful. I think, and like the music is good for like it's like you said, it's like either use all of it or none of it, and they've done what Kenobi did. They kind of half-assed it in both
Yeah.
ways. You got this late, but the music wasn't good. The music is really good and fitting. Like there's, I think, the end of episode 2 where like these heavy like drums come in, and it's
noticed
just
that.
like
I noticed
I was
that.
like, it's just cool. And I got like it's like this James Bond feeling. He's kind of like a Han Solo, but a little
Yeah.
sly. He can talk his way out. He's
Yeah.
like he's seen some shit. Like
He's just gnarly enough to where, like, he's the good guy, but he's just gnarly enough to where it's like, yeah, he's the good guy, but he might cut someone's fucking throat.
yeah, oh yeah, he's not
the-
afraid to shoot you in the face if you
Right.
piss him off. Like who's laughing now? yeah.
Yeah.
The casting is top notch.
it really is.
Everything is top notch.
Yeah.
The lighting is top notch. The tech they use feels like it could slip right into New Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also doesn't feel like it's exact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also like funny too. Like there's moments of like comedy that are like it's not. I don't even say it's dark comedy, but when they're like, did you modify your suit? He's like, yeah, I tailored it a bit, added some pockets. Like the lieutenant colonel that goes in and gets a burn his ass
Yeah,
to
yeah.
go after
Yeah.
Andor.
The writing's really smart, and I think what makes it so smart is that it's tasteful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they're
the
not
dialogue
beating
is
it-
strong.
Yeah, the dialogue is subtle and
It's not
strong.
even like Star Wars dialogue though.
That's what I'm saying. It
Yeah.
kind of feels... Well, Genevieve watched it, and that's my better half, and she's enjoys Star Wars, but she's not like a Star Wars geek.
Yeah.
And her perspective was, oh, it's kind of like the first few episodes anyway, it gave her Blade Runner vibes. And I can see what she means in that it's kind of just slightly gritty, smart sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I love sci-fi.
And also, it's not like laden with action.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then especially in the first 2 episodes.
Like Blade Runner is not really about
No.
action.
It's a
There are a
crime
few
noir.
things that happen,
yeah,
some fights
it's more
and
like
whatnot,
detective mystery just happened to be set in this other
in
environment.
this gorgeous environment
Yeah.
that
And you can tell it's going to evolve, and that was mostly in the first 3 episodes to set up the world.
Yeah.
Like that specific planet and community felt that way.
shout out to Ridley Scott.
Oh
Yeah. It feels just really satisfying. I guess is my biggest takeaway was I don't have any of the apprehension that I felt watching Obi-Wan, wondering if this was going to be good and what they're going to screw up.
Yeah.
Some of that is just because they're not fucking with these sacred characters that we have all this baggage with. But the other half is what Curtis is saying. The production just feels higher level.
Yeah.
You just innately aren't worried about it being shitty because in the first 10 minutes, you realize like, oh, these people know what they're doing. This
Yeah.
is filmmaking done by
Top of the
pros
top cast.
that really know what the fuck they're doing, and that's what. Now, I also acknowledge that this is some of it selfishly motivated. Like, I want a grown-up Star Wars story, and I recognize that there's a whole contingent of the Star Wars world that isn't interested in a grown-up version of, you know what I mean? Like, I think we had talked about this offline, but even the passing reference to the couple, you know, the woman that runs the shop and her boyfriend that works there, like even the like, it was clear that they were in bed together.
Yeah.
Not like you saw anything
yeah.
or there was
Yeah.
a love scene, but just the sheer, we're not going to pretend and hide the fact that they're getting in bed together and waking up together. We've never seen in a Star Wars story before.
And it was a smart way of doing
This
it.
is
Yeah.
actually breaking way more ground than
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought it would be.
yeah.
It is, and like I'm not even mad at it. Like I'm a Star Wars purist.
Yeah.
And I love that my most enjoyable Star Wars stuff is like the simple New Hope. There's a good guy, there's a bad guy, and there's like magic powers and shit. But this
Yeah.
is fucking like great. It's
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
And it feels great. And the actors are cast very well. They all feel like they've been through shit.
Yeah.
They don't feel like they're like a dude in LA with a fucking that got a headshot. Like my biggest pet peeve on anything is if actory actors.
Yes.
Like fucking actors, even though I do sort of make little films, they're fucking like actory actors
Yeah.
are annoying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like a dude with like really nice hair and teeth. It's like, man,
Well, there is a
you do
point
not-
to You're right. Like if actors, honestly, it's kind of my beef a little bit. I know you love it and I'm enjoying it, but I'm not freaking out about the Lord of the Rings series. Is sometimes I feel like everyone's just a
They're
little
actory.
too pretty.
The
They're
Galadriel
all-
character, she's kind of pushing it.
and
I
they're
love the
fucking-
series,
Their
but
outfits are like all clean and
There's
shit.
clearly
Yeah.
so much amazing stuff going on in that series. Don't get me wrong, but
It's
sometimes
pretty.
I'm like, every character is like a fucking supermodel in some capacity. Like they
Yeah.
could all be a supermodel if they wanted to be.
Yeah.
All the men and women look like they are just a
It
little.
doesn't seem like there's
too-
anything behind the face.
yeah.
Because let's be real, no one's gonna like. None of these people are gonna cast swamp donkeys in their movies. It's like it's not like Viggo Mortensen isn't crazy handsome.
Yeah,
but
he's
he's
a
got like a
gorgeous man.
rugged.
He looks like he's been through some shit.
yeah,
though.
exactly. He's like crazy good looking, but he also looks like a guy you might be able to meet somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
Where it's like I look at some of those characters in that I'm like, whatever. I don't want to get in, but to your point about the casting, you're right. Like they're good looking, but they look rugged.
Like
enough.
Harrison
Yeah.
Ford's a really good looking dude, but
Yeah.
there's some shit behind there.
Right.
You know he's kind of a
Yeah.
fucking squirrely fucker.
Right. Exactly.
And it's also it comes down to the acting. It's like we all knows we've all worked with that. I mean, it's a big reason why I left Chicago. It's like I can't. I used to just write music for theater and underscoring for like live theater, and I was like, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
because I
those
can't
theater
be
cats,
with some
man.
people, and then like. And I think it's like knowing them behind the scenes too, like how like their egos can be.
Yeah.
Not that musicians are any different. I moved to Nashville and
It's just
I
a different-
rapidly
it's a
discovered
different
it.
You left
It's-
that world
yeah.
straight into the
Yeah,
music
yeah, and I was like,
business.
oh, damn.
Have fun with that.
But it's just like all the characters. There's a lot of emotion in this series. Like it's very emotional, and I think they're trying to set that tone because it's like this is the breaking point. This is where
Yeah.
the rebellion is born.
Right.
And it's like I don't know if y'all noticed on when they're on Canary doing those flashback scenes.
Yeah.
And I usually hate flashback scenes, and they do a good job. They don't use any subtitles, and that was on
Yes.
purpose.
This flashback scene
Yeah.
pissed me off less than any other flashback.
Yeah,
they
'cause
always
I-
feel
I
like you're
usually hate the
like,
back
oh,
and
fuck,
forth.
here we are.
Yeah.
I hate when it's like, oh, come on, this is. But
Yeah.
I thought they did a great job pairing it with what was happening in like the modern time, going back like. But
Do we think, by the way, mentioning that he's gonna find his sister at some point?
I mean, I'm
I
assuming.
didn't even know the fuck
There's
there
so
was
many-
a sister.
Well, that's what's happening in the very first scene of the whole.
Yeah.
When he goes into that bar and he's asking.
Oh wait,
that
I did
woman-
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's so many interesting characters. Like I've even made a note about the guy on the train talking to Luther. Like,
Yeah.
Just what I was like, is
Oh,
he
yeah.
gonna be important? Like coming
Yeah.
back and like
the
there's
world building is fucking
yeah.
dope.
Like I hope the B2 emo,
Yeah.
B2 emo, the droid comes back.
Blue
Like,
Ne- oh, that droid is awesome.
isn't he awesome? Like he
I feel
stutters
for that
like I
little
don't have
fucker.
enough power to lie. That's
Dude,
two
that
lies.
just it. Like, even the droid feels like he's been through some stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you're
could-
right.
It's like it's just
It's just
good
really
Star
smart.
Wars writing
Yeah,
because
it's just smart.
It's smart, and I don't know what happened with
It
Kenobi.
feels like
It's-
we're watching a series made by Star Wars nerds, but these Star Wars nerds are really good at making movies.
Good at
Yeah.
making fucking movies.
They know how to tell a story on screen.
And
Yeah.
speaking
It's
of art
just
direction,
satisfying.
we actually tried to do this yesterday, y'all. But the vulture's interface was all jacked up, and we couldn't get a clean signal. So like here we are,
wonky.
And the reason it took us forever to get this episode out is
Yeah.
because we had a small dust up on the outer rim.
It's also
And
true.
we got lives. Shit's a little crazy, but we do love this, and we love you hippies.
We're back in the groove. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll be here.
We're
for the rest
smoothing
of
it
the
out.
series.
But
we
one
had to
thing we
catch
talked
up.
about yesterday when we tried to do this is the Empire, the White Room where they're doing
Yeah.
the table. It felt kind of like Kubrick to me.
Yeah.
And I just want to say I was gorgeous, and I loved it.
It was. But it also, you're right. It looked beautiful. Kubrick vibes for sure.
Maybe, right?
Yeah.
But also, it still felt like it could have been that scene in in A New Hope when they're talking to Vader. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's
But these
ways,
dudes,
Lord Vader.
I
I
kind
wonder
of
if we're gonna
like
see any of those folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like George Lucas's inability to write dialogue because it's just Star Wars.
Yeah.
But these fuckers are good at
That's
dialogue.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now we're getting us like, oh, you can make it look and feel like Star Wars and the dialogue. can be
Yeah.
legit.
It's good,
It
right?
did
Like
not.
you-
Dude.
It's like, are we security? It's like, no, we're a healthcare provider. So like, and just that whole rant about being like, if you let a disease or virus
Yeah.
go too long, it gets harder to treat.
So
like,
smart.
It's just
like,
fucking smart.
It's exactly what the Empire, and it's like, and
One of the things that I have found satisfying about it on like a gut level as a Star Wars fan, because of our cynicism about Obi-Wan and the way I feel about the prequels, I have these moments of like, fuck, am I just going to be the old cranky Star Wars fan forever? And this show so far is nice because it's kind of countering that thought. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's not just because I'm old and cranky. It's because some of this
'Cause
stuff,
you're right.
it's just not done that well. And if they do them like this and The Mandalorian,
Yeah.
I'm still stoked. And more importantly, like I said before, within 10 minutes, subconsciously, I could feel my shoulders dropping. Like, oh, I'm not waiting for this to suck because I can tell that these motherfuckers know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I can just go back to being a kid sitting Indian style at
Yeah.
story time and go back into that place where I'm not thinking about the production.
Yeah.
I'm just being transported.
Yeah, they
with
have
the
earned
story.
my trust as well.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really satisfying. I gotta say, I feel like I kind of needed that.
Dude,
coming off
it
of
feels good to
Obi-Wan.
be right.
Watching Obi-Wan is like
can't go
fucking
back.
stressful.
I can't go
'Cause
back
you're
to
like,
watch
what
it.
are they about to fuck up?
That's what I'm saying. I think watching Andor is underscoring how apprehensive I was watching Obi-Wan for exactly that reason, because now I'm just able to relax and enjoy the show again.
Well, if Andor is successful, which it probably will be, y'all maybe just need to stop making shit about legacy characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope they're getting that lesson.
But the thing is, in the same point is like Kenobi screwed it up. But with the way Andor's moving now, I wouldn't be upset if one of them slips in. We've talked about before. It's like, I don't mind if you pepper in a legacy character.
A cameo would be great.
A cameo from the Emperor,
Emperor.
Empire, Tarkin,
Vader on a hologram would be tits.
I
Right.
trust. I think it's Gilroy, his name. Who did I know? Because I looked into his.
Yeah,
I
what'd
didn't
he
know-
do?
He did. I think Nightcrawler, which is a really cool
good. That's
movie.
a good fucking
Oh,
flick.
yeah.
And I was thinking, because I was like, and when I was thinking, you mentioned the lighting, I was
I
like,
want to meet this Gilroy.
that
kids
movie, Nightcrawler, is really good.
Oh yeah, man. I
believe he did that one, yeah.
That motherfucker can act.
Yeah.
That's great. I didn't realize that was the same person.
That boy's good.
Yeah.
That was good.
That son of a bitch is good.
And what it's also exciting, and I think we don't know this 100%, but Curtis looked it up. It looks like there's 24 episodes in the works.
Yeah, IMDb is not exactly the
Yeah, they
Bible,
don't-
But if that's true,
it'd
and
be
there's
great.
2 seasons, what I hope, and which would be exciting, is they knew the story they were telling from the
Yeah.
initial inception. They're like, okay, we've got a 24 episode story to tell here. It's 2 seasons, and it's going to be the Andor story. And again, because we know Andor's not going to make it because we've all seen Rogue One.
Yeah.
That they know that there's a finite amount of time to work with this story.
juicy.
So it's smart to like, how about this? He's the guy that starts the rebellion. We've got 2 seasons to tell a really great story with plenty of time. To do it
yeah.
right, but also to get out.
Yeah.
We're not going to turn
Get
it
the
into
fuck
like
out
9
of Dodge.
fucking seasons. Let's just let this be a really smart, inspired 2-season narrative that is a handoff to Rogue One. And again, for me, if this holds, this isn't the new prequels.
And then
Right.
Mandalorian
How many-
is
oh,
the
dude.
sequel.
That's
Because
right.
Even the
that comes
stuff
right after Return.
Speaking of new prequels, like they showed up at places like Coruscant, which
Yeah.
traditionally haven't been like presented, in my opinion, as something that felt like Star Wars.
That's right.
But
Now it does.
this does feel like Star
Totally.
Wars.
It's exciting to think that we can and again, I'm always speculating, and we've talked about it in previous episodes, that there's when they did the deal with Lucas for Disney that there might have been a provision like you can't ever remake the prequels or this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And they're finding ways around that. Like, well, how can we show those worlds or tell stories in that sandbox but not step on the toes of the prequel
of the
movies? And this
I would
is
love
it.
if they went back into the prequels and redid the CG.
I mean, I just think they
Man.
should
He
remake the
won't-
whole story.
He'll just add more.
It would be awesome.
Tell the Anakin story by... Think if these fucking people who are making Andor
Yeah.
were able to tell the Anakin Skywalker story.
Whoever wrote the Joker,
Yeah.
Oh,
the
God.
should be writing Vader.
Yeah, well, I agree
Because
with that.
like
but
he should, because I believe the Joker, like he went. I believed that he took that crazy leap to be
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
murderous
it
psychopath.
explained it. Yeah.
And like Vader obviously ends up as a murderous psychopath, and like I didn't necessarily believe that transformation. It's just like
dumb. It was a dumb
it's
reason.
like one
for his
day
dark
he
side.
like one fucking day he's like saying he loves his wife, and the next day he's like bowing down,
Choking that bitch out.
Like, and then I was
Yeah.
like, your name's Darth Vader. Like,
It's like,
you're
you've
just
been
gonna pull
sleeping
that
with
out of
my-
the ether.
No, that was
you
my
know I
big
agree
gripe.
with
Was
you.
like that was what
Yeah.
I was most excited about in the prequels. I think we've talked about this before. Was like, how does Darth Vader become Darth Vader? And it was just a weak ass.
Yeah.
I might go down and say that Attack of the Clones might be one of the worst movies ever made. I
Yeah.
couldn't fit.
Girl,
Like-
preach.
Like it's
Shoot,
I got in an argument with someone at work
It's
about. I
fucking
was
rough.
just like, it's the dialogue, the acting. Like
There's not a
it's-
department in the production that you'll convince me isn't at
I think
the lowest
Attack of the
level.
Clones
It's
is
fucking rough. Going to see that like
that was
dude
the
at the diner deck. It's like,
Dude.
what is this? The fucking Muppets?
What do you know?
Like, what is this? Like, is this the Jim Henson? Like,
Well, I
is this
haven't seen one of these.
And you
since-
said it, Curtis. That was the one too where they went even further on the CG effects.
That was a full. That was the first full
Yeah.
green screen
Yeah.
shooting.
Phantom Menace benefited by having a few more
Some.
physical sets than
yeah,
Clones did.
they use a lot of miniatures on. I think the Phantom Menace looks great.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Phantom
I'm
Menace
not,
is-
I'm
isn't
not
a-
mad at it visually.
Yeah, and there's some shit that turns up in the next two that like YouTubers could do better.
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
It's
But
just like
Andor, I mean, I'm excited.
green screen's not. They're doing better with green screen, but
Yeah.
the volume stage is where it's
Volume.
at.
The thing is with
volume.
Andor so far, and again, could be wrong, it's really hard to picture with what they've shown us in the first 4 episodes that this is going to take a dramatic turn for the worse and suddenly be shitty. I feel
Worst
like
case scenario, we get bored.
that's exactly what I was
Yeah.
going to say.
But
Worst
I'm
case,
okay with being
it might
bored in that
drag in a
world.
few episodes, but the world feels so fun that you know what? I'm kind of good just to
Yeah.
hang in this world for a couple episodes.
Dude, I'll
if I
hang
need to.
out for the cinematography. I'll
Yep.
hang out for the lighting. Whoever does the lighting,
Yep.
you're a badass. I'll put your name up there.
Yep.
Boom.
Boom.
What else? Camera movement's great.
Music,
honestly-
I love the music.
Whoever's doing the art department,
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
give you a hand job.
And wait
Yeah.
until we're getting
Next week.
more visual. We haven't even seen a Star Destroyer
no,
yet.
yeah, like
and
you
we
said,
know it's coming.
One of you said you peppered like just the. You saw 1-2 TIE fighters fly, and it was like the sound.
But think about it.
Yeah.
We know the environment. We know the tension. We know the oppression of the Empire. So when that moment happens and he hears it coming, and
Yeah.
it's like just seeing 2 TIE fighters fly over with the buildup was more tense and
These
interesting.
people know how to build it
They're
up.
building.
Then
Like
anything
Vader
else.
showed up when in Obi-Wan.
3rd episode.
Motherfucking baby should have never been in until till he fucking came.
And it was a
Amen.
dumb. And not only I thought they were at the beginning they were gonna pepper it. Well, they show. I think it was at the end of
No
episode 2.
taste.
They showed a butt. And these episodes are long. Like I,
I will
thought
say
when we
that
said
fight
12,
between him and Obi-Wan was
They're
powerful.
like 40 minutes, give
they're
or
like
take.
because
Yeah.
that's how long Obi-Wan's were. So Obi-Wan was 6 episodes, 40 minutes ish. But we're already getting 24.
Those Inquisitors
This-
sucked.
Yeah, these
they
that
started.
last Andor episode is 50 minutes long. So they're not short. I
Darth
thought they were
Vader's
gonna be
not
like
fucking
20
scared
minutes.
of fire. I'm sorry.
It also means
But-
there also means they're spending a lot of money
I
because
love
if it's 24 or 2 seasons of totaling 24 episodes and they're this long and it looks this great and we haven't even gotten to where we're seeing fucking space battles yet, which we've seen in the trailers. We know at some point some version of that's going to happen. Like we haven't. I remember that shot in the trailer
Shit
where
looks great.
Andor's flying something and they're fucking TIE fighters chasing him from
They're
behind.
building up to
They had a
something.
Star Destroyer in one of the shots, right? It was
Yeah,
like,
well,
oof.
that's part of what's gonna is exciting too, is because the trailer gave us a glimpse.
How many years? Yeah, my bad.
It is no, it's just a high stakes story. This is the beginning of the rebellion fighting the Empire.
You could tell they're scared. How many years out are we from
5 years before A New Hope.
before?
Okay.
But and then New Hope, and then Rogue One basically
Right
happens like
before.
15
It's
minutes
liter-
before New
yeah.
Hope.
yeah,
It's like probably a couple months before A New Hope because if you think about the start to finish. But
Rogue
yeah,
One
literally,
starts with Andor in the middle of something that we don't really necessarily
Yeah.
know what it is, right? Like,
we might learn by the end of this.
Well, I like it. Well, I like how like we in Rogue One,
Yeah.
when Andor shows up, it's like, who's this guy? He's obviously seen some shit. He's obviously
that dude's
a seasoned vet.
That dude's been through some.
Well, we know we're going to
hornet
see
fucking nest.
Homeboy again, right? Forrest Whitaker's character,
Dude,
Luke,
Saul Guerrero.
That's one thing I
Luthen?
wish they could have had more in Rogue One. I like Saul Guerrero.
Well, we're going to see him in this
That
series, which is
fucking. What's that dude's name again?
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
That son of a bitch can act too.
Fuck, I mean,
Yeah.
Oscar
Go watch
winner.
Fast Time at Ridgemont High, y'all. If y'all want to see a good
in Fast
Forrest
Times?
Whitaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played the
He's a
football,
football player.
If y'all
No
want to see
shit.
Forrest Whitaker at his best, watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Shit.
Oh, yeah.
Did you watch? What was the fucking movie? The true story about the African leader that he played. Fuck, that movie's. It's really good. It's gnarly as
We need
fuck.
more Forrest Whitaker.
He's
in
a
our life.
badass.
Well, I'm excited about that. Like, who else do you think might show up if they are going to throw in a character that is established or known? Like,
Do we think
Is
though?
Leia? Was probably
maybe. Well, what is she? Mon Moth talks
Leia's
about
like
someone she
14.
wants to bring into the circle in episode 2 or 3.
Leia's dad?
It might be Leia's dad, Organa.
Okay,
because
well, Bale would be interesting. That could be fun.
Hey, Bill.
The second we start talking about the OG characters, I start to get nervous.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
like even when you said that, I was like,
well, Leia because we're right in the Rebels, which is the only
Yeah.
animated series. You got me onto that, and I was actually.
I'm actually down with
I
like the
was
first
down with
couple of
Rebels.
seasons of
but
Rebels.
there's too many. They added too many characters, and but
Too much goddamn shit
so
going on.
there's characters from that. I know they've hinted that they were gonna add them in because there's like a
Yeah.
whole other couple Jedis that we
Right.
never knew about.
Oh yeah, what Jedi are alive right now? Yoda, which we won't see.
Yeah,
I hope not,
Obi-Wan,
at
who we
least.
won't see. We might see that loser guy from the first episode of Kenobi, that little real
Yeah, as far as
Well-
expanded shit goes, who
And
is
we don't
alive?
know for
Ezra and what's his
is
name?
Ahsoka? She might not technically be a Jedi, but in theory, she's like alive and
Yeah,
floating
she's
around
floating
at this
around.
time,
In
right?
theory, she's alive and well, and just somehow didn't decide to not involve herself in Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
Right. Also, we don't really know whether the Ahsoka series is being placed in the timeline, do we? Like,
I don't know.
Is
I
it
don't
possible it
know. I probably
overlaps
never
with
will.
this timeline?
It could be her story of like what happens between like
She's
Episode three.
basically
episode 3 and A New Hope. It could be that, but they're really firing in that timeline. It could be after with
Yeah.
Mando, but I think Mando might be handling her now.
I don't like when they shoehorn people in between things that
It's
just
so
obviously aren't
stupid.
there.
Like you can't just have like a huge character that has such a like an effect on the world. Like I know, like that was my one thing with Rebels is like it's right around the New Hope era, and they're talking about how Luke's the and like Luke could he wasn't even in a great fight like that, but that's because of the time. But you throw in a show like Rebels where you're getting kids that are like 12 named Ezra who can like control TIE fighters with this like in fighting. It's like so
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we're gonna go by
Pokes a few holes.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like so
Yeah.
Luke's supposed to be the best of the best, but meanwhile you got this other kid who's using a TIE fighter and like getting space whales to come in.
I hate Space Whales.
I didn't
yeah.
watch any of that shit.
Also-
I'm glad that's not even in my brain.
The last episode of Rebels.
You're
is
telling me
pretty
that
bad.
Darth Vader had a fucking Padawan and there's no mention of her
Nothing.
in 6 fucking films?
Nothing.
That's what I
Kiss
mean
my
about
ass.
curating your own Star Wars story. Like
Yep.
I never watched that shit,
Yeah.
so it never is a factor. So I don't have to because I know for a fact I would be so irritated.
But I did
with that.
like her in the fucking
I did too,
Mandalorian.
and also Rosario Dawson is amazing.
She can act.
She's a badass. So I'm not mad. It's like if you're gonna have somebody in it, putting her in it definitely helps.
True that.
Um,
Well, I am fucking stoked.
I'm stoked for Andor. The next one, next Wednesday.
It feels
we'll be right
really
back at
good.
it.
Yeah,
Like,
it feels.
I'm excited.
So every Wednesday we'll get a new episode.
And then we will
Yeah,
record as
Yes.
possible.
we'll try to keep up like we did with Obi-Wan.
We'll
and
do our goddamn best.
So far, it sounds like this
We'll be
time
more
we won't
excited.
we won't be the grumpy old men Obi-Wan commentary, but a lot of high fives.
It's a
going
highly
on.
unlikely we're going to deep dive into any sort of fucking Star Wars depression in
Nope.
this
Yeah,
one.
it's nice to be genuinely stoked this time
It's
and not
back,
to be
baby.
nervous with each fucking episode.
I'm not nervous.
Yeah, I'm like it just feels. I keep repeating myself, but to sit here and be genuinely purely excited with no
Yeah.
negative energy or nervousness going into it
Yeah, I
hasn't
mean-
existed since we got into the Mandalorian.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
even keel on that.
Yeah, no, I can't think of something that I'm like, well, I didn't like that. That's very exciting. I'm
Yeah.
very excited for this series.
I'm very
glad there's a
aroused.
lot more
They
coming.
did a great job.
Good job, y'all.
Nice work, guys.
All right.
We'll be there. All right, guys. That's a good net for now, and we'll hit it next week.
Yeah,
Love it.
let's get the fuck out of this neck of the galaxy.
Sure.
The old
Punch
star.
it, Curtis. Punch it.